and welcome to this episode of Creative Visions TV. I'm your host, Karen Dahlman. And in this episode, we're welcoming back one person that we had, and that was more recently, and her name is Cher. She's a visionary artist from Sedona. She's also a storyteller, activist, and transformational healer. And we had a chance to talk to her about her incredible oracle deck called the Mystic Art Medicine. And we went through her journey behind her inspiration to these images. As you can see, it's a pretty big deck, 64 cards. And we said we would come back and discuss one of her epic paintings. When I say epic, I mean epic. It's really an incredible transformational piece that I know all of you will enjoy hearing about because, again, as we had learned first from Cher, is that her way of navigating the unseen realms is through her painting. In fact, this is her way of channeling. We often talk on this show about channeling spirits, spirit communication, the paranormal, the metaphysical, the supernatural, and all those things out there that are often unseen and unexplained. So she does it through her art, and she gets the same results, in fact, really prolific results, from spirit talking to her and explaining how the synchronistic events within her life weave itself together. And her art shows it. So this is why she's been on the show before, and this is why I'm bringing her back. Her artwork is just incredible. You guys know I'm a big fan of hers. So, as I mentioned, we have a painting, the epic painting we're going to show today, and it's this one. It is called Creation's Child. Now, what I didn't explain to you last time was that this painting was what was started in 2000, has changed, transformed, expanded into something that it is today in 2017. And you're going to hear the stories behind it, the reasons why, how it came about, and how Spirit speaks magically through the paints on canvas to Cher. And so we're going to get into some of the images within this painting and what it has become today. So, without further ado, let's welcome back Cher. Welcome, Cher. Welcome back to the show. It's a pleasure to have you back today.
Thank you.
Well, you're very welcome. And as we talked about last show, you were coming back to talk about this epic painting, which is called Creation's Child. And as we know, it started as more of a darker colored piece. And do you want to show that G clay you have, the print of it, what originally it looked like?
Yeah.
Wow.
So this is, sorry, it's really probably not easy to see. I don't have the original to show you. The original is behind me, and it's can you see there?
Oh yeah, no, we can see it. We can make those images out. Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. So it's 4 foot by 4 foot.
Huge.
And it was a painting to heal my childhood that I started in 2000. In the year 2000.
Well, I know you gave it the name Core Healing within the deck, the oracle deck you created. And is that, can you maybe explain why you called it Core Healing?
Because that's what it's been for me. And still is.
So it's a transformational piece. It's a piece of exploring, it sounds like, internally yourself, and then allowing spirit to work with you to transform. I mean, is that accurate, or would you explain it differently?
Well, yeah, and I would explain it. This showed me how it works. This painting, actually, my whole everything changed when I did this painting. So when I get into the story and tell you, you'll see how it evolves, and it'll answer your question. Sometimes I don't find the best words to articulate how it comes, but I'll say that she came through intention, and the intention was an intention from my heart to heal. And in that respect for myself and my respect for the elements and nature and all that's around me. This is where I was living on that land in Malibu, where I was painting 15, 18 hours a day. This painting was really the true initiator of that work.
Did this painting transform for you in Malibu when you were living on that sacred land, or did it start transforming for you when you were in Sedona? And maybe you could talk to the process of why it started transforming.
Okay, yes. In Malibu, after 15, 18 hours a day of bringing her through, in 2001, in February of 2001, I put on an art show at Earthways Foundation, which is on the coast of Malibu, below where I lived. Mm-hmm. I was an activist, and it was this mansion that overlooked. It's so beautiful, overlooked PCH, and it drew a lot of people. I had decided. I was thinking coming off the mountain was actually my first really coming out was this art show where I spoke this. There's a 15-minute spoken word that comes with this painting, and I had decided to share it with the public, and so I did, and so. Part of this, that there was a woman who offered me a lot of money for it. At the time, I was a single mom living up in 27 acres of amazing Chumash tribal ceremonial land on the rights land, and very humbly, it was a trailer. And remember, my painting from the first show couldn't really fit inside my home. I liked living that way. It was humble, and I could have used the money, and Spirit guided me to say no. At the time, I figured that it was because she was meant, honestly, I felt that she was meant to hang in the Museum of Tolerance.
Oh.
Coming from LA, I was familiar with that museum, and anyway, I knew people would stand in front of this painting, and sometimes it seemed like everyone had some kind of catharsis. Mm. And I realized that it wasn't meant, at this time, I figured it was meant to go in a public hanging place, not be sold. And so I listened, and I said no, even though I really could have used the money. And I'm so grateful that I listened. Mm-hmm. And so then I ended up moving to Sedona. And then working at the Center for the New Age for those 4 months, and then moving to Hawaii. Remember, I talked about that in the show?
Yes.
On that show. And so I lived there in Hawaii. Creation's Child is in storage at this point in Sedona.
This one right here, this version of her was in.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm calling her Creation's Child. Okay. Creation's Child Rising.
Okay.
Creation's Child 2000. And so, and then I went to England, and I lived in England, and I came back to Sedona, ended up moving here, got her out of storage, and sat with her for the first time in a year and a half, well over a year and a half. And the spoken word, I knew so well, it was rolling through my head as I was meditating, gazing into this painting again. And I'd like to start with the first part of the spoken word,
beautiful,
which initiates the red and dark with a little bit of blue, Creation's Child, that I'm calling Creation's Child 2000.
Okay.
And it's, all right. Creation's child awakened to unveil her wings, innocent soul, pliable, born in cold, pale plastic, shocked to the core, mother's womb, no more. Faces stoned in cold, not a conjured friend foretold. In the present distant past, the headsman made at last, stalking his whipping post, he invited the unholy ghost. The child's wings couldn't grow. He clipped the sacrificial lass. She comes in to grow her wings. The wings didn't grow. So when I'm sitting in front of Creation's Child in 2005, or 2006, I I realized that I could see the angel wings that I hadn't seen before, and I began to see the transformation that the spoken word spoke to that I hadn't painted in yet. And so, and I was inspired to go in and put paint again on this, what was called a masterpiece.
So you were taking the painting that was the original one that was mostly the darker colors, the blues, the darkers, the reds, and you all of a sudden felt moved in that year, 2006, to begin painting in some wings?
Yes. And my intention was to bring in the light. So I started with a lot of white. And then realized that it was my overzealous I had to then find a balance. Again, one of those lessons of you need both the shadow and the light to create substance. And I was taking away the spirit by adding all this white at first. And so I went back in, and it took years, really, literally years. But the point that I wanted to make about actually going in and saying, I didn't really start with this story yet. The intention of painting this painting was to heal my childhood and to go in and paint this. I had no idea what it was, except that it was going to be a child with a mask falling off. That was the only thing that I had visioned. I kept seeing. So when I went in, the message really was, or my intention really was, is to go in and not care what anyone thought. So here I was, I finished it in 2000, showed it up in 2001, said no already. So this woman offered me so many $1,000s for it that I considered it, publicly considered a masterpiece. So now I'm here in 2006, and I'm deciding to put more paint on this and really changing it.
How did that feel to you as you wanted to change it? Because I know you're so connected to this painting because of the childhood stuff and what you're trying to work on and show and heal. How did that feel to you as yourself projected into that painting when you start lightening things up?
Thank you. It felt amazing. It felt because already here at this point, I know the power of art, and I know that. So, dreams may come. What's that movie where you paint your future? You can actually paint, and it psychically happens. I never thought about it that way. I'm just saying that right now, but it's like what I did realize is that the power of painting is so real to me that when I realized I was actually invited through the spoken word, through spirit, to paint.
Yes.
I didn't take it as my mind going, oh, I want to change this. Actually, my mind was, let's leave it. People like it. They think you're really good. No, it's like, this is for you. You're not meant to care about what people think. Remember? And I went, oh, okay. And so once I got over that, I knew that was a direct invitation, I'll say. And I really went in and I put, I'll send you a picture of you can kind of see where the wings are really white. And I had to go back in and be with spirit. Really, really follow the lines. Go ahead.
Yeah, I really want to say to the audience here that this is Cher Lynn's way of allowing spirit to work through her. And I mentioned this in the introduction about how she channels. This is her channeling way. It's not her consciously. And we talked about this in part 1. So be sure to go back to part 1. The link is below. she's not like going, I'm going to specifically go change this. My mental mind is telling me to. We've talked about this before we turned this interview on today, how it comes through to her in many different ways, like clairaudient, clairvoyance, clairsentience, all the different ways it comes through. And then she just becomes the hands, eyes, the feeling, the heart of spirit, and allows it to go on the canvas. This is important for everybody to hear because it's not such a conscious, oh, I've got to change this painting. And that's what I'm hearing her say here. It's like, I'm following spirit as spirit tells me how it speaks to me through this painting, where it wants to be, where this painting needs to go, regardless of the money I'm going to receive. It's the process, it's the how it speaks to others, it's the catharsis, it's the expression. And this is why she's here, because I want to show you guys another way that people channel. And you don't have to be just an incredible artist as Cher is, a visionary artist like she is. You can be any kind of artist, anybody messing with the materials and learning to channel your spirit guides this way. And this is what she's doing so brilliantly. So thank you for letting me share that. I wanted to interject that because you're speaking to that to us today in a big way.
Thank you. I love hearing you describe what I do. I feel like you say it so much better than I.
It's just a different way of saying it, but no, you're saying it beautifully. She's a storyteller, and she weaves everything together through these beautiful stories. And it's the synchronistic stuff I want you guys to pay attention to as she tells her story. You're going to see how everything just aligns because she allows spirit to move her and not the other way around.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
So back. I interjected that, but I want to get back to what you were talking about, and you were talking about this process for you of how you were doing this, and I know you're going to start. Well, the white wings you were talking about it, but I know you're going to start pointing some of these items out in your painting as well.
Okay. What I'd like to do, is to initiate a little bit. My intention wasn't to share the whole spoken word, but the first part of it, I'd like to.
Okay.
So I shared that one part. So the colors turned to black and she lost all contact. She thought, "Know ye, O child of thy mind, these chains ye feel are only thoughts, terrors of darkness that ye are taught. Yea, darkness, ye have taught me deep in the bitter moments to pain in her belly, swirling sun, darken as burn. Still she kept the fire in. Blue was the color that accompanied black." Here it is. "Blue was the color that accompanied black on her body that was beaten for her sins forth and back. Not a wonder she's a quiet girl. Cat got your tongue, they'd say to her in school. Don't bring her around our group, she ain't cool. So she wore her clothes in layers to avoid the many glares. What an interesting fashion, the girls her age would say. Her style showed such passion, and she preferred it more that way. But the secrets went on hidden, her body feeling smitten under clothes of many layers and avoiding all the glares. It's amazing all the fear that can come from those who are so dear. All the bruises they can cause, we'll just hide them under gauze. No layers thick or thin could hold that torment from within. Still, the fire she kept in began to melt the stones, revealing her bones. Broken and burned through her child, she learned to reclaim her soul, all lost parts of self. She calls to return. And so this right here, all lost parts of self, she calls to return. This is what this painting represents to me. It's everything. And when I started, and again, back in 2000, I went in with this intention. And I put heavy music on, and I brought out red and black, and I got more primal than I ever had when I had permission in therapy. I released so much onto the canvas into this, and it was amazing. And the next day, I'm already on fire, and I'm a night owl at this point, and I was up at 5:30 in the morning, and I'm meditating with this canvas, and I hear for the first time a voice so clear. She had an accent. I mean, a literal accent.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, "Why are you afraid to shine? You slave boy no more. Babalao, Ashe, Untubuntu, very black medicine baby. The spirits are blowing smoke on you in the spirit world. Go, they wait to meet you in the painting."
Oh,
And
my.
so this is where I first learned to follow the lines.
Oh, you talked about that in part one. Okay, this makes sense.
Yes, and so Spirit says they're blowing smoke on you. So I'm literally looking in the canvas for somebody who's blowing smoke on me. And the first one I find is, where are you at? Boy, I don't know if you can see her.
You can move to the side, maybe, if that helps.
This is my little medicine tool.
And you
It's my
said that
favorite one.
it's a hummingbird, is that right?
It's a hummingbird, and then there's crystals,
Oh my gosh.
and it's a root that I found when I was staying in the Stewart Springs in Mount Shasta. And so, and many years back, I didn't have the hummingbird on here. I built it. But back when I was painting, this one existed.
Oh, wow, okay. That's
And
beautiful. Now you're going to use it to be able to, as a pointer, you guys.
as a pointer,
This is great.
The fairies are going to play with us today. So the first, I don't know if you can see her. She's right here.
Yes,
Can you
yes,
off?
yes, yes.
It-
It's small, but I can see her.
Okay, so I will describe her though. She's very black. She's obviously had children. Her breasts are hanging low, and she has a really big fat cigar in her mouth with something on her back that looks like wings, but I never was really sure. Something's on her back, but she's smoking a really big cigar, and I'm like, wow. So it wasn't what I was expecting. Now there were several. There was a few, at least, smoking ancestors who were blowing smoke on me in this painting.
Okay, that makes
First,
sense.
but listen, this is the cool part for me, because one of the things about, I really ask Spirit to affirm for me, confirm, let me know this is real. Now I wasn't doing that at this point, but so I paint this grandmother in. A week later, not more than a week later, I get a call from a woman who, she says, "You don't know me, but I'm a friend of your friend." And she was telling me about you, and I don't practice anymore, but I'm a Yoruba priestess, and I'm not practicing anymore, but Spirit is telling me to offer you a healing. And if you were to accept, I need to forewarn you, I'm going to be blowing cigar smoke on you.
Stop it. What?
That was one of the weird things that she was going to do. And I'm like, oh, shit. Just because you said that, I got to say yes, because you don't know what I just painted in my painting last week. Literally, when I'm talking on the phone with her, the painting is standing behind me, and I'm like, oh, wow.
See, we told you, they're saying. We told you it's coming. Wow.
Right. So
this is the synchronicity I was talking about to you guys. Everything weaves itself together through her canvas, and it's true life. It's like, where does one start and where does one stop? Where does one leave off? It's all intermingled. That's the beauty of this. Intermingled. Cher, tell us more.
Right. had I not gone in to to touch paint on this masterpiece that I considered a masterpiece, to actually transform her, there's so much I would have missed. Remember, so this was a soul retrieval. I didn't realize it when I began initiating this painting, but when I went in 2006, and this is I don't remember when I found this spirit, but there's a spirit that's blowing smoke on a hidden child that was hidden before. So it was like a lost soul that was there, and maybe I don't know if I can describe it without being able to actually show you, and you won't be able to see it. But on the red and black one, you can see the faintness of the face. I had not ever seen it. When I was living on the land in Malibu, I had a dream, and one of the spirits blowing smoke on in the painting, it was a mountain behind my home, and I did a lot of ceremony on this. So I believe the land was speaking to me. In the dream, she was green and kind of these colors. But at the time, the painting was only red and black, and I knew I couldn't honor the dream by painting green in there. But when I went back in to actually bring through the transformation of creation's child ascended today, she is green. Mm-hmm. So, do you want me to show you that she's green?
Is this the character that was the one's blowing smoke?
This is an image of.
I see that. Yes.
Honey?
Yes.
There's the story of the tall ones in here. The vessels filled, the tall ones bring, healing her womb, growing her wings.
I would love to hear about the tall ones for you, because as I explained in part one, what you call the tall ones, I call the guardians, and they mean so much to me, and they are very tall. Some of mine are up to 14 feet tall. But so I would love to hear about the tall ones for you, because I know they're such a healing agent.
Thank you, because you mentioned it in the first show,
yes.
And it hit me, and I was like, oh, I thought that was where we were going, but then we didn't. But so these, I call them the tall ones, and yes, I call them the guardians. They are the guardians as well, and they're the guardians in my deck. I started seeing them when I was about 13. And no, actually, I didn't see them then. I didn't see them. I think I felt them. Okay. I was having those, it started, the first time it happened, it was 3 nights in a row, and it was like this paralysis. My mind was complete. They would call it sleep paralysis, but that's not what it is. It's not what it was. It happened 3 times in a row. I ran out. I told my mom, we were visiting. It was brushed off as my dad was really mean to me, and she's just stressed from that. And but this continued. This thing where I would just suddenly be in that theta state, and I would be paralyzed for a certain amount of time, and my body would be humming, and so when I was 18 years old, one of the things that I have, a challenge that I have looked to overcome in my life is not wanting to be here. And so suicide was something that when I was 18, I tried very seriously and ended up in mental wards for it. Mm-hmm. Now, this is the perfection because I ended up being in this ward, and being a sensitive, you would understand there is a lot of disincarnate stuff going around in there.
And I used to work on wards as a psychotherapist and art therapist, so I fully understand what you're talking about. Absolutely.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah. Wow. She didn't know that.
Oh, I love you.
Mhm.
So I had one of these experiences, but it was infiltrated with like something. It actually I felt the presence of someone, and a cold wind blew my hand down to my chest, and I had never felt a physical thing, and I maybe because I was in a mental ward, I went screaming through the halls for the first time because I couldn't do that as a kid. I wasn't allowed to even talk about it.
No.
But this was the worst, scariest one ever. And I was screaming, running, and it got the attention of a young doctor. He wasn't mine, but it was the first person that said, "Tell me what's going on." He brought me into the office and said, "What's going on?" And I finally had somebody to say what was happening, that I was having this experience. So what he did, he was my angel in there, and this is why I was there, in part. He taught me biofeedback, and he gave me a little tape.
Oh, okay.
And I realized today it was my first training, a shamanic journey. I listened to this tape, and I found this room. It was like the music room. So there's a grand piano in there, and I would just be empty. It would be in there, and I would find this time to be empty. I mean, the room was empty, and I would within 5 minutes, I would be in the theta state. And then he encouraged me to not be afraid, to open my eyes, to look around. And over the years, it was always really, really hard to do that in that state, but I did. And when I did, I saw 4 of everything in the room. I was present to the room, but I was seeing 4 of everything in the room. And when I panned down towards my foot, more to my right, there were these very 3 tall, the tall one, the being. Now, I wasn't used to seeing something so very clear. And I wasn't afraid at all. I knew immediately that they were guardians.
Yeah.
And I was safe in their presence. And so every time that thing happened, I would tell myself not to be afraid, and I would go through it. Then it always scared me. In my 20s, I was doing alcohol and drugs, and I was also responsible with modeling, so I wasn't like really off the deep end, but I was partying a lot when I was in my 20s. I had a visit in one of those states where I was paralyzed, where I did not say it was a being that was not a tall one, and it was right over me. And I for the first time since I was 13 years old, I literally was able to break through that paralysis. And as soon as I sat up, I fell back into passed out.
Oh,
and
wow.
When it went into a dream, and I woke up in the morning, and my stereo, my subconscious was telling me it was entity related.
Okay.
Because in the dream, and I knew it at the time, but I denied it. I didn't even want to realize that. But because ET had come out, I dreamed that my stereo was fixed up weird. And when I woke up in the morning, and my stereo was broken. So I shut them down completely.
Because of the one experience you had of the one that was negative, but okay, I fully understand. Yes, that happens. Yes.
So then when I moved on to this land in Malibu, and then I was entered, and I became a partner that I spoke about in the first show that was with me.
Yes.
So I love to meditate. Okay, so you were asking about tools.
Yes.
How? I've been so when I was really, really into meditation, and I love to meditate with my arms out for some reason. Nobody ever told me that, and I don't even know if it's a real thing. But he told me, if you like doing that, you should try breath of fire.
Oh.
Breath of fire. And so I love Breath of Fire. So I was, but anyway, the first time I did Breath of Fire on my own, I mean, he taught it to me. Then the first time I'm doing Breath of Fire in the morning on my deck, on this land that I lived, the tall winds came to me.
Yes.
So I had met Hank Wesselman, who's...
I know Hank Wesselman, sure.
Okay, so he came on the land. He's the first person that I ever met that had an experience of the paralysis and the vision seeker, how he travels 5,000 in the future.
Yeah, I'll put the name of the book, you guys, below for you guys, because it's a fantastic book. I have that on my shelf. It's fantastic. Yes.
Right. Back in my 20s, I used to ask, and I used to ask people all the time if they had these experiences before I blocked it off. Even after, if you've had these experiences of paralysis and weird and nobody, everybody just looked at me like I was crazy. And so I stopped talking about it. When Mary on the land, Mary Wright, who gave me his book and said, my friend is coming, I read the first part of his chapter and I'm like, oh my God, somebody knows the tall ones. And so then I met him and I spoke to him and he encouraged me. He gave me some shamanic tools, how to journey, because nobody had ever showed me. I had my biofeedback guy talking to me when I'm 18 how to shamanic journey. I never learned how to do it. So he taught me some tools of going in and encouraged me to invite them back.
Oh, lovely.
I had just recently done that. And then I had done the Breath of Fire and they came through and literally told me that they were family. And I began welcoming them back in. And I love it because I painted them a couple times. You probably haven't seen. There is a painting called The Guardians on my website in the tribal gallery, indigenous gallery. And they're more ghost-like figures. And when I first started to show them in public, people would come up to me and they would say, I've seen them before. I've seen them before. And I recognize that this painting is these beings really do present themselves to people. And I don't know how, I don't think it might not, now perhaps it's being spoke about more, but I haven't really spoke many about it for such a long time.
I understand. I've never shared about it fully myself until we did the show, the previous show we did, where I talked about my experience with the Guardians, the tall ones. And for me, the same thing happened, Cher, where I was young. I had other experiences with many different beings. Some of them scared me, and these never did. But because of the mix, I also kind of put them away as well. And plus, I went to school. You can't talk about such things. But like I told you, through your cards, through this magical deck of yours, I called them back. And they were already starting to come back. But once I called them in with your deck and then did in Sedona, I did the giant labyrinth in the valley, Sedona Valley. They're coming back now. We're actually in communication. We're talking, and they're communicating with me and through me. So yes, many people. I think what's happening is people are awakening, and they're awakening to these beings that are here to help us. They are here to help humanity. I know you've discovered that as well, and we have to allow them. We have to invite them, is what I've learned. And then there's nothing scary about it. It's just very natural. It's just an existence of another being that exists in another dimension, but they're here to work with us in profound, awesome, uplifting ways. It's been my experience. So I get it. I get it. Not talking about it and then being able to talk about it.
Yeah,
it's timing. It's timing. And you were saying how in this painting they began to appear in this Creation's Child painting. How did they start appearing in your painting behind you?
Yeah, well, I saw them, I felt them, I recognized them, and
I see them.
So they're here, and this is the way I brought them through on this canvas. And it's her spirit is strong. It strives to survive all that was taught her, all of the lies. A tear she cries, a question, a try. Could there be circles, not all squares, somewhere found in the roots of the stairs? And so then the poem goes on to see that the vessels filled, the tall ones bring, healing her womb, growing her wings. On the back of the dragon, she flies through the doors of deception into a wholly new conception. And so one of the visions that happened in this painting back in the year 2000, when she was still at the black and red stage, was for a good 2 months I kept having a vision of a dark door. And go through that dark door. And I resisted. I kept hearing it, kept coming. I eventually painted it in, thinking that would appease the urge. And I'll point it. It's over here. It's over here by what, can you see?
Yes. Yeah.
So I painted the dark door in, and I kept, it didn't stop. And so I knew I needed to journey at this point. Now Hank Wesselman had already taught me some tools. I chose to lay myself down on my wood floor in the place where I lived in Malibu, and I went into this journey drumming on my heart, laying on the floor, but I had seen a dragon back through painting this painting. I talked about seeing the fairies before. I never thought I would see the fairies. I certainly didn't think I would see a dragon. I saw a dragon. I could tell you that story if you want.
Wow. But, wow. Where'd you see a dragon? Yeah, I want to hear. And is the dragon in your painting now? Is the dragon in this? Okay. Do you mind pointing it out to us here? Well, I think I see its tail.
It's flying up here.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Over my shoulder. So.
Yes.
On the back of the dragon, she flies through the doors of deception. So on the back of the dragon. So what I did was I called all the medicine that I knew I had. And recently, the dragon. I'll tell you the dragon.
Yeah, please.
I work with nature in a very harmonious way. Literally, I had to deal with the pack rats. I put offerings outside for you. You don't come in the house. And it works. Well, I was meditating one night, and I felt a weight on my foot. And I looked down very slow because I thought it was a pack rat. And I looked down really and surprised that I didn't want to scare it. And I'm not afraid of them. I looked down. Oh, my God. It was a little dragon. It was the cutest little dragon. And it was surprised. It saw me see it.
Oh, and it was, my God. Tell us about what this dragon looked like. Oh, my gosh.
It looked, it wasn't like I painted. It wasn't like that. Actually, it was more cute and little. Well, they probably shapeshift, I could imagine. But I'll tell you, it looked up at me. And I saw it. It was surprised that I saw it. It was trippy. I wasn't on psychedelics either. Okay. And then it ran, I realized it moved. It was moving my eyes. It ran under my fireplace. I had one of those lift up kind.
Okay.
So it went up, and then it ran right to the wall, and my altar was there, and a candle was lit, and it flew like this, like that. And it flew up the wall, and then it got up to the ceiling, and it went across, like this. And when I think of it, I realized it was making my eyes do a certain thing. And it went to the edge of the wall, so I'm sitting here, I'm meditating, watching it. It goes to here, and then it comes back, and it stops in the middle of the ceiling and it disappears, and there's this anamorphic screen. And an anamorphic screen is like a wide screen.
Yeah.
And there's these faces, many faces, and they're children, and they're adult, they're walks of all life, all ages, all colors, all kinds of different people. I ask it in my mind to slow down, and it slows down and it shifts into a scene of, it was at night, there was a fire. Women were in the center, and they were doing something with their hands like this, and men were on the outside, and they were doing consecutive backflips, and their bodies appeared to be naked with like clay on them or something. So I'm watching this, was obviously some kind of ceremony, and then it shifts into a plowed field in the south of a child running, and I think it's a boy. And then I experience, as this being running, I experience a death. And I don't feel pain or anything, and I suddenly feel like I'm in peace. And that's it.
Oh my goodness.
So, whoa, I had never had anything quite like that happen before. Now I'm going back to, this is me tracking. I'm like, well, there was a she said, I was slave boy no more, you medicine baby, a Cher, very black medicine baby. So I'm thinking that I was witnessing my life from that time. That there were, what I got out of it was Africa made these words, Ubuntu, something like that. I'm sounding out the way it sounded to me, and I wrote it like that. Babalao really is a real word. Ashe is a real African word. These are real words that were used. What I got was that there was a neighboring tribe that turned us in. The white people came, killed everybody they didn't want, and then took us on the slave ships. And this sounds wild. And on the slave ships, we cursed them that had us enslaved, and then this is my perception, I born myself into that which I cursed.
Oh, as a continuation of life, a new life when you reincarnated.
Yeah, so that I would have it in my blood to that level and forgive it at that level.
Oh my goodness.
Maybe for the tribes, I don't know, but what I do know is that all of these things started to open up, and that's where I came to the idea that I really born myself into something like this so that I could bring in that level of forgiveness.
And healing and transformation. Would you say that then that this started as this, and all the stories that you wove together today that relate to this, I mean, just powerful images, experiences, visions, healers, people, that is what you're seeing behind you? Is that transformation within yourself on this piece of canvas here?
Yes. I believe so. That's the way.
Wow. Because this painting has changed 180 degrees from what it was to where it is. And is this painting done in terms of complete, still adding paint strokes, or would you say it's still a work in progress?
Well, I've considered it done again, and I'll tell you, this is kind of cool. I'll tell you that as of today, it's my birthday, and at just before our show, on the time of my birthday, I was in meditation, and I was bringing in some more light that's coming down. And actually, if you look, that's coming down from the dark door, that's coming down from the shadow to the shadow,
Yes.
to the shadow figure, and the deck, the shadow figure. So the part of that, right? So above there's a child praying.
Okay.
You can't see it here.
On the original painting, right?
It's a child praying.
Okay.
So the child's prayers unleash the chains of thoughts of the darkness taught. And when I had painted in Creation's Child in 2001, the only reason there was even any light blue in there at all is that it accidentally happened. There was a drip of blue that somehow fell onto the canvas near my father, and I looked at it and I went, oh, healing for him. So there, I let the drip stay, and I added more that became the flowers here.
Oh, yes.
Above. And so in the shadow card that you have, that's where I left it at that point. When I went to work at the Center for the New Age for those 4 months that we talked about in the first show, there were spirits showed up in different ways there too. And there was a man who was a philanthropist and a psychiatrist for child abuse, a philanthropist for child abuse. And he saw my shadow card and said, this is where you hold your father.
Well, yeah, you can see him right there.
This is how you're holding him in your mind. And when he said that, it really hit me deeply, because I really am about forgiveness. And when I really saw how he was there. Now, at this point, I still didn't think I was ever going to touch on this painting. So it wasn't about changing the painting.
No.
But at that point, because I'd started doing spirit guide paintings, I did a painting just for him. Just to heal his spirit.
Nice.
And it was a trip. And I'll tell you, he's Melchizedek in the deck. Melchizedek showed up. He's
Melchizedek? Your dad's Melchizedek?
Yeah. Now, it's not my father is not Melchizedek. Melchizedek came in because
I know what you're saying, but you're saying that's what that's what he became transformed into, right?
Yeah. So listen, I'm like at this creek. What we talked about in the first show. I don't know, like I'm down there and I decide I'm going to paint this painting for my dad, and I have a tall prayer candle, brand new one that's lit, and I'm calling in his higher spirit, and down the canyon, whoa, a huge wind, literally knocks the candle down on top of, like, over onto the canvas. And there was something that happened within me that was so cool. I was like, warrior stepped in, and it was like my higher self and his higher self, and I knew that there were energies that did not want me to bring in this healing, and it made me even more passionate to do. It was such a trip.
Oh my gosh, wow.
Eventually, I had this sense, and at the time, I didn't, and eventually, shortly thereafter, I moved to Hawaii. I finished him in Hawaii. I didn't really know. I didn't really know whom. I know Melchizedek, the name. I knew more Drumbelow Melchizedek than who Melchizedek is at that time.
Right.
But I kept having this feeling that he was Melchizedek. And later at one point I was showing him, and these two young guys came in and called him out. They're like, look, Melchizedek. And I realized Melchizedek came in to take it over for me, because I probably wasn't ready to do all that. But whatever the case, I went in to offer that healing for my father. And so going back to Creation's Child in 2000 and 2001, taking the money for her, not taking the money for her, not selling my soul, I brought so much more prayer into this piece. And it's not just for me. It's for the macro. Everything we do really works that way. At that time, I didn't know that, but I know that so much more now. And I'm so grateful that I didn't take the money.
Well, this has been not just healing for you, as you said. People look at this and talk to you about it, what it means to them. Even the psychiatrist saw something, but people come and look at these paintings. People want the painting. We're talking large sums of money, you guys, and it's been so. It's what happens with spirit. It's transformational. Okay, you guys, I just found the deck. You saw me in the background looking for it. It's the Higher Knowledge card, which is the Melchizedek deck, and I wanted to show this to you. Because this is just an incredible painting. And I know Cher was talking about how she used, or I should say, no, Melchizedek came to her and used her guidance of her canvas or painting to help transform the father figure within the painting and within her life. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Again, this character was in this painting as a different figure at one time.
Uh-huh. Today in this painting, there's so much more that's alive, and a whole lot more prayer going into that.
And we were talking earlier about this painting. I was using the word epic, and you were using the word masterpiece, and it absolutely is, because it's one of these paintings that it changes itself as you've been changing. You were talking about all the different healing modalities and the people you're working with and people that wanted it and the large sums of money and all the stuff that went into it. And you said, no, I can't sell myself out. That there was such magic. There's that word again. You make magic when you paint because you allow spirit to move through. And if you step aside and I'm talking to everybody here, if we step aside and allow spirit to move through, in whatever way we channel that, it's going to take us back to the place of expansion, evolution, shift, change, transformation. Because after all, the universe does want us to become the best we can be. And if we can go back to your painting behind you, Cher, and you can maybe push yourself aside a little bit so we can see more of it, because I want you guys to see such with clarity the colors that have transformed this painting, which reflects and represents what shifted for her. And I have to say, Cher, I don't believe you're just changing and shifting yourself, but all the people that come and view this. And when we do our work in the world, we're shifting and changing the world as well, in beauty and in love and inspiration. It's a beautiful, beautiful piece.
Thank you.
You were saying earlier how doing this painting and the coming out with it. Although you speak, she's in public, you guys. She gives programs in an intimate fashion and takes them on journeys and talks and art, and you're speaking. But this format is new for you. So tell me what that's been about for you since you came out with us on this last show.
Yeah. To be honest, after the last show, like by the evening, I totally had, maybe you could call it a breakdown. Mm-hmm. I went into the greatest, I was like, oh my God, what did I just do? I just totally put myself out there, and once it's on YouTube, I'm out there, and that's it. And it was strange. It was like it didn't hit me until, and I work on processing things, and I got over it. I'm here today. And I think I'm unveiling even more, and that it's about the medicine. It's just about the medicine, Cher. It's about the medicine, Cher. It's my name, Cher.
And you are a mystic, and you do work with the magic, and you do work with the medicine. It all comes through your artwork. Any final thoughts you'd like to share with the audience today about this process, about this transformation, about this incredible painting that seems to continue to speak volumes for itself?
And never give up. Never give up.
There's always transformation to be had, isn't there?
Yeah.
I want to say thank you so much for spending, listen, her birthday, we heard, today with us, you guys. It's her birthday. Today is the 29th of November. So when you watch this, you'll see it a few days after, when it first hits the YouTube channel. You'll see it a few days after, but it's her birthday today, and it's really kind of her to share that with us. So I want to say thank you so much, Sharon. Thank you so much for being with us again. Your stories, the way you story tell and how it weaves all together, and we see in imagery, we get to see it visually, your stories. That's a whole nother level of viewing. I want to say thank you again for being here and sharing that and opening yourself up to us and exposing your soul.
Thank you. Thank you. I feel it feels really special to be sharing this on my birthday. Like it's another coming out. It's yeah. I'm thank you.
Great.
I appreciate it.
You're very much welcome. So you guys, the links will be below. I'll have links to her Instagram, fabulous Instagram. She has a lot of great imagery. You'll see her in action. I love her Instagram page. Also, I will give you the links below to part 1 of this interview. Her website will be there, and also a special link to this painting, because then you'll be able to see the transformation, and you could read that poem that she shared pieces of it with us. You guys, I want to say to me, this was just an incredible interview with her, because I got to see the shift, how it actually transforms this painting and what it represented to her, but what it can mean to all of us too. We all have that stuff within us that can be dark and hard to face at times, and to get it out there, whether it's through writing, poetry, some type of art form, dance, creation, painting, voice, and getting it out gives us kind of an objective view from it, but allows it to have a life of its own. And if we can learn to work with it, allowing it to have a life of its own, Spirit will speak to you in profound ways. It was wonderful having our guests today. Thank you all so much for joining us here. It's been my ultimate pleasure for me. Thank you for liking, subscribing, and commenting and sharing. And part 1 is below. Please check that out. And I'll see you again real soon. This was Creative Visions TV, and I'm Karen Dahlman. Now get out there and express yourself to your fullest abilities. See you soon. Bye-bye.